felt good. When I got sick, I was scared to get a hot towel. I wasn't supposed to say that. I know somebody's heard. I understand. Those don't like when you don't tell the truth. I'm going to tell you anyway. I've heard about that. I've been in Ohio, and I had to sneak into the package store and get what I wanted to get because I was sick, and I thought I was going to take it. I didn't want folks to look at Reverend Johnson funny. All the while, deacons passing me, trustees passing me, pew folk passing me, they get everything they want. If it's applying to me, y'all apply to you too. Don't miss that. Folks can put unrealistic expectations, and you got to decide whether or not you're going to allow yourself to be put in prison by false beliefs. Churches are bad about it. And that's why I like Jeremiah. That's why I like the text, because when the folks in the southern part of Judah get out of control, they get put into bondage, and God puts them into captivity. And when they go into captivity, they have an option to decide whether or not they're going to come out of captivity by doing what God says, or stay in captivity by doing what they say. To understand who has their Bible, y'all help me out. Where's your Bible at? I'm going to have a screen up here in case some people look back and see my words. I don't have it right now. Who has the 16th verse? 16th verse of the first chapter of Jeremiah. Somebody's got it. Come on, Deacon. Come on, I got it right here. Come on, read it. 16.
I will utter my judgment.
I will utter my judgment.
Against them concerning all their wickedness.
Talk about the people, the select of God. The judgment is going to be against them. Keep reading.
Because they have forsaken me.
They have forsaken me. Me is referring to God. God is saying the people that I have done so much for have forsaken, walked away. Keep reading. They have burned incense. I don't have some incense. People know we have incense. We use incense to cover up the smell and the odor of other stuff. Some people say they like the smell of things. It's true. They usually cover up. Some folks will laugh. Some folks understand. When you burn incense, you're burning up to cover up some of the odor. The folks have started burning incense to other gods instead of the God that brought them out of their mess. Keep reading. Stop. I think you very much. That's the 16th verse. There are two reasons why folks go into judgment. Two reasons according to Jeremiah, Brother Jones. Two reasons. The first reason is that you've taken yourself to follow other gods. We talked about it last week. You might be in idolatry if you worship your job more than God. You might be in idolatry if you put something else in the place of God. Your car, your position, your pedigree. Pedigree means who your mama and daddy was. Your surname, your alphabet behind your name. If there's anything that you have that's more important than God, you're an idol worshiper. And when you're an idol worshiper, even your gifts. Come on now. You talked about it in the minister's class. Come on. If your gift is so great you can't stand yourself, I can ready to sing and don't love me because I'm going to sing, I'm going to wreck the house when I preach, I'm going to make the folks run. You think it's so important that church can't go on and that you get your solo. It ain't you, baby, you're an idol worshiper. It ain't about you. God can use folks that can't carry a tune in a bucket and they can sound selective God. Had no use for God. They began to worship. The word in Hebrew, worship, means to literally bow down. They began to bow down to themselves. To subject themselves to themselves. To worry about just what they want, opposed to what God wants. Y'all listen to that. When churches are more vested in keeping themselves alive than giving God worship, when we're more concerned about how much money we got instead of who we really helping, I'm tired of churches and all the hurt that we got outside the walls of our church. We come to church, spend 2 hours and play like we do in God's favor. We didn't help nobody. Homeless still homeless. The hungry still hungry. When you leave and go to Piccadilly and drive past the brother and sister on the street, spend your $20 there, somebody is going out. But we didn't have church. I didn't have church, and boy, they had a good time, and we didn't give God praise and worship, and yet still nothing changes on Air Street. Chelsea still got dope houses and crack addicts, but we have a church. Pierce still got hookers and pimps running up and down the street, but we still got church. Louis Avenue, children can't go outside and play because the Game Boys are running the street in North Memphis, but we still have a church. I think it's a judgment call. That God looks at us and says they come to church looking all good, want somebody to pat them on the back. They leave out expecting somebody to be concerned about where they go. And they're only concerned about satisfying the person sitting to their left or to their right. When it's time to give God worship and thanks, we're thinking about what we're going to eat after service. We can sit in church all day, preaching and preaching, we reading books, passing notes, talking about reminiscing and reminiscing, and calling ourselves saved and filled. No, you're not a worship, and you're under judgment. And what I realize is that the church has to get tired of being weak. Folks ought to tremble when Union Grove come to the worship house. The enemy ought to be concerned when we have a worship service. The devil ought to be saying, we got to figure out a way to get some conference to happen. We got to figure out a way to keep folks from getting to the pulpit. We got to stop the prayer service and pop from going on, because if we let Union Grove get themselves to the church house and they get together in a corporate prayer, if they get down on their knees and get themselves out of the way, get their titles out of the way, get their other thoughts, other business out of the way, and give my name the glory and honor and the praise, they'll mess around and turn something city upside down. When I realized it didn't matter what folks thought about me, when I realized the purpose of my call, I realized I can't preach like O.C. Collins. Ain't supposed to. Ain't supposed to preach like Gardner Taylor. Every preacher up here, you always give tapes to everybody. You start listening to everybody else's sermons and try to figure out how we can sound like this, do like that. I realized my call wasn't that at all. It's in Jeremiah. Somebody that wasn't supposed to be Jeremiah